I remember the night my world collapsed like it was yesterday. It wasn't a dramatic car crash or some life-threatening accident. It was a whisper. A whisper that changed everything I thought I knew about myself. I was rummaging through an old box in the attic, looking for yearbooks, when I found a sealed envelope with my name scribbled across it. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a birth certificate, one I had never seen before. And there it was, my sister's name, not as a sibling but as my mother. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. My stomach twisted with a sickness I had never felt before. My whole life, I adored my sister. She was my role model, my protector, my best friend. And in one shattering moment, I realized she had been my biggest liar. What would you do if you discovered that the person you called your sister your whole life was actually your mother, keeping the truth hidden from you? Would you forgive, or would you fight back? Tell me in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. Growing up, I thought my life was ordinary, maybe even blessed in ways. I lived in a modest two-story house in Ohio with my parents, Harold and Diane, and my older sister, Marlene. Marlene was 10 years older than me, and I adore her. She was the cool one, the one who painted her nails bright colors, let me try on her old dresses, and whispered secrets into my ear when Mom and Dad weren't listening. To me, she wasn't just a sister. She was my anchor. When I had nightmares, she was the one who tucked me back into bed. When I cried after a boy broke my heart in high school, she drove me around until I calmed down. I thought she was the closest thing to unconditional love I'd ever known. But cracks started to show when I turned 22. I overheard hushed arguments between Marlene and Diane, late-night phone calls that ended with tears. My curiosity led me to that attic box. And when I unfolded that certificate, listing Marlene as my mother and Harold and Diane as grandparents, everything fell apart. The betrayal wasn't just Marlene's secret. It was everyone's. My grandparents had raised me as their child, smiling through years of lies. My identity wasn't stolen by strangers. It was ripped away by the people I trusted most. That's when the anger set in. I wasn't just hurt. I was humiliated. My entire life had been a carefully constructed performance, and I had been the fool on stage. For weeks after that discovery, I couldn't look at Marlene without my chest tightening. I replayed every memory in my head, searching for signs I had missed. The way Diane was always stricter with me than with Marlene. The way Harold treated me like a second chance at fatherhood. And Marlene, always hovering, always protective, now I saw it differently. She hadn't been a doting sister. She had been a guilty mother. I confronted her the night after I found the certificate. I remember sitting across from her in her apartment, my hands shaking so violently I had to grip the couch cushions just to feel grounded. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice breaking. Her eyes filled with tears, but instead of an explanation, I got excuses. She claimed she was too young when she had me, that Harold and Diane thought it best to raise me as their own, that she did what she could to love me, even if she couldn't tell me the truth. But love isn't built on lies. Every time she said, "I did it for you," it felt like a knife twisting deeper. I didn't need protection. I needed honesty. And they had stolen that from me. The worst part? Diane tried to guilt me into silence. She said exposing the truth would ruin the family's reputation. Harold sat quietly, refusing to meet my eyes. Their cowardice only deepened my rage. At night, I lay awake thinking, who am I really? Am I Marlene's daughter or Harold and Diane's pawn? My entire identity had been rewritten without my consent, and I was expected to just swallow it. I felt shattered, humiliated, betrayed. But beneath the wreckage, a new fire burned. They thought I would stay quiet out of shame. They were wrong. The more I sat with the truth, the more I realized silence wasn't an option. My so-called family had built their lives on deception, and I wasn't going to let them keep controlling mine. I started small, gathering pieces of the puzzle they had kept hidden. I found hospital bills tucked in Diane's old drawer, letters Marlene wrote when she was just a teenager, begging her parents not to take me away. I tracked down an old neighbor who casually mentioned how Marlene's baby disappeared back in the late 90s. Each detail painted the picture clearer. Everyone knew, except me. But I didn't confront them again. Not yet. I smiled at family dinners, acted as though nothing had changed, all while carefully documenting every lie, every contradiction. They thought my silence meant acceptance. In reality, it was the calm before the storm. Because when the truth finally came out, it wasn't going to be whispered. It was going to explode. I waited until Marlene's 35th birthday, a night she insisted would be a family celebration. The entire extended family was there, along with neighbors, old friends, and colleagues. Everyone who thought they knew us. Perfect. I stood up during the toasts, glass in hand, my heart pounding but my voice steady. I'd like to say something, I began. Smiles turned my way. Marlene beamed, expecting me to sing her praises as the doting younger sister. Instead, I pulled a folder from my bag and laid it on the table. This, I said, is my birth certificate. And it turns out Marlene isn't my sister. She's my mother. The room went dead silent. Gasps filled the air. Marlene's face drained of color. Diane tried to interrupt, stammering, "That's not true," but I cut her off with the hospital bills, the letters, the witness statements. Every lie they told, I exposed one by one. Marlene broke down in tears, her carefully crafted image shattering in front of everyone she loved. Harold and Diane shrank in their seats, unable to defend themselves. The family's perfect story had crumbled in less than 10 minutes. For the first time, I wasn't the fool being lied to. I was the one holding the truth. And it was devastating for them. The whispers began, spreading like wildfire through the crowd. Friends who once admired Marlene looked at her with disgust. Relatives avoided Diane's eyes. Their reputation, the thing they valued more than me, was in ruins. And as I stood there, watching their empire of lies collapse, I felt something unexpected. Freedom. In the days that followed, the silence from my so-called family was deafening. No calls, no apologies, not even a message. At first it stung. A part of me had secretly hoped that after the truth came out, they'd finally acknowledge the pain they caused. That maybe Marlene would sit me down, admit everything, and say the words I had been aching to hear. "I'm sorry." But that moment never came. Instead, I realized something powerful. I didn't need it. Their lies had defined me for so long, but they no longer held that power. By exposing them, I reclaimed the narrative of my own life. For once, the shame wasn't mine to carry. It was theirs. Revenge didn't erase the years of betrayal, but it gave me back control. I had been silenced, manipulated, and treated like a child who couldn't handle the truth. Now I had proven I was stronger than their secrets. The moral I took away was simple. Sometimes the family we're born into isn't the one that deserves us. And sometimes, the greatest act of revenge isn't destroying them, it's choosing to walk away with your head high, knowing they can never chain you to their lies again. Life after that night wasn't simple, but it was mine. I moved out of Ohio within a few months, packing everything I owned into my car and driving west until I found a small town in Colorado that felt untouched by my family's shadow. For the first time, I built a life on honesty. No more lies, no more secrets. I started working at a local bookstore, surrounded by stories that reminded me every day that people survive worse and still rise stronger. I made friends who knew me only as me, not as someone's daughter, not as someone's sister, but as a woman who had fought her way free. Marlene and my grandparents tried reaching out eventually, but only to beg me to stop talking about what happened. I didn't reply. Their reputation might have crumbled, but mine was just beginning to take shape. And unlike theirs, it was built on truth. There were hard nights, of course. Loneliness crept in when I thought about the family I could have had. But then I remembered. That family was never real. What I have now, peace, freedom, authenticity, is worth more than any illusion they offered. I didn't just survive their betrayal. I thrived beyond it. Looking back now, I realize revenge was never about ruining them. It was about freeing myself. Exposing the truth wasn't just payback. It was a declaration that I would no longer live under their lies. And in that moment, I found something more powerful than vengeance, I found myself. Sometimes, revenge isn't about hurting the people who betrayed you. It's about reclaiming your voice, your dignity, and your future. So I'll ask you, what would you have done if you were in my place? Would you stay quiet, or would you burn the lies to the ground? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.